If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the Property Rebel with your host Arsh. And in today's session we're talking about Boris's roadmap to recovery. Now I know that we've covered a lot on the Property Rebel podcast about COVID, about lockdown, but as I record this, I can't deny the fact that there is an air of optimism in my voice about the roadmap to recovery. So before we do all that, I want to say a quick hello to all listeners all around the world, and hopefully, I've got to say, I really wish you're well and safe wherever you may be, and more importantly, let's get us back to some level of normality. So let's get straight into it. Monday, the 17th of May, 2021 in the UK will go down as a day in history, as a day that we almost pretty much get to a point of recovery. Now, the reason why I say this is because today is a day that restaurants are allowed to open, where they're allowed to allow guests back in, pubs, restaurants, other entertainments like bowling alleys, cinemas, they're all now allowed to start opening. And I appreciate that there's still a long way to go up until June/July, where we're going to be pretty much back to normal. I say back to normal, I'm also going to talk about a slight blip which could cause an issue. But I'm going to call this one Boris's roadmap to recovery. So first question that I'm going to ask you is, how do we all feel about this? More importantly, how do you think our property businesses will prosper in the next year? And other questions I'm going to ask you in this episode is, do you really think that we're still in for a mini boom? Or are we still thinking that we're going to have a bit of a crash? So let's discuss it and let's think about why and what we think about it really. So for me, going back to the first question, how do we feel about things? For me, I'm really excited about it. And the reason why I'm really excited about it is because after so much doom and gloom, it's actually just good to see some positive stuff coming out of it. We can almost see light at the end of the tunnel. For a few months, we've had the ability to go out and meet people. It started off in ones, and then we started getting out in groups. Then we started to see our nearest and dearest. Then we were able to go meet people in outdoor space. So we've slowly but surely been coming out, and it's been a real joy. You know, people have gone out, they've met their friends, and they've gone to a pub and they've been able to eat outdoors, they've been able to drink outdoors. It's a bit of a shame that we haven't had the weather to really enjoy it like we did when we were in lockdown, but you know, we can't have it all, hey. So I feel really optimistic about it. Now, let's get back to the point of, do we think our property businesses are still going to prosper in the next year? Yes, I do. And the reason why I do that is because I've talked about this all along, and I've called it the money tap. The money tap is still there. You know, now is going to be the real challenge, shall I say, as to what's going to happen with these businesses. You've got to remember, a lot of these businesses have suffered a lot of losses as a result of not being able to trade over the last 12 to 18 months. So what's going to happen? The doors are going to open. Now, they're not going to be making profit straight away. They're going to be making a little bit of income straight away, but that's not going to be able to have made up for what they've experienced over the last 12 to 18 months. So are they going to employ, or they're going to take all their staff back on? Are they going to leave some on furlough? Are they then going to have to, you know, if the demand's not there, because unfortunately we have to take into consideration that some businesses won't survive, and that will be a reality. Some businesses won't survive, and as a result of that, what happens to all those members of staff? You know, we're talking initially just on a local scale, some of the smaller businesses, but when you look at all the larger businesses that haven't survived, and we could talk about national chains of when we look at retail, we look at some of the larger chains that haven't survived the high street. What happens to all those people? You know, unemployment's still at a high. We're now talking about potentially coming out of recession. So these are all positives. I think that businesses will start to grow again. It'll take a bit of time. I think businesses will also be cautious as to what they do and how they do. I'm just conscious of the fact that lots of businesses have had to make a lot of amendments and changes to their strategies and policies in order to accommodate the new roadmap to recovery. And just give me an example, so they've had to only be able to operate in a certain capacity. That has also had an impact on their business, whereas previously, let's just say that a restaurant that was able to house or feed 100 people, under the previous lockdown rules, it could only house or cater for 50% of those. So they're not at full capacity. Now, going forward, as of Monday the 17th of May, will they be able to then increase that capacity? Will they be able to get to those 100% occupancy or capacity levels? I really hope so, because that is the only way that they're really going to make money. Now, taking this back to property, because that's the one thing that I know. As a HMO, as you can appreciate, as a 6-bed HMO, we know that the first 3/4 rooms literally cover the outgoings. The other 2 rooms really are what we would consider the profit or the cash flow in that property. Now, look at it from a restaurant's point of view. If they're only operating on 50 or 60% of the capacity, is that literally just covering the bills? And we don't really think about it like this, because you've got to remember that these businesses, I was watching the news over the last few days, there's going to be some additional support for businesses that have been put under pressure from their landlords because they've not been paying the rent for the last 6 to 12 months. So there's going to be additional support. So you've got to remember that they've got outgoings. Yes, okay, they've had the benefit of furlough, so that they've not really had to pay or contribute towards their staff. However, they've still got other outgoings. They've got their council, their business rates. They've got their rent or their mortgage on the building, because let's face it, they don't get any relief from that. And then there's other outgoings as well. So you've got standing charges for the electricity, gas, water, whatever it may be. These are still outgoings. So if there's nothing coming in and they're still paying out, they are in a deficit. And as a result of that, there's only a certain amount that a business can sustain that level of outgoing without any incoming. So there will be casualties. As optimistic as I am about businesses getting out and prospering over the next year, there will be some casualties. There will be some companies that said, you know what, enough's enough, we can't afford to do it anymore. And as a result of then coming out further, and looking at that they're going to only be able to operate at a certain capacity, yes, they're probably working and they're generating some income, but if they're only generating enough income just to cover their outgoings, are they really operating a viable business? And these are the questions that they'll ask themselves. Now, moving forward, let's look at the property market. Stamp duty. It'd be interesting to see what happens when Rishi Sunak comes back and says, well, okay, let's have a look at what the stamp duty is going to do. Are they going to extend it further? Are they going to keep kicking the can down the road? If they do, that is a positive point. And the reason why I say a positive point, because that will still help homeowners and investors buying properties. We've seen over the last few months, we've had a mini boom. Prices have been able to increase and the market has kept moving. And that's as a result of stamp duty. That's as a result of people still continue to buy. Now, will that continue forever? Only time will tell. Time will tell when stamp duty, when they decide to actually cut out the stamp duty relief. As a result of that, there'll also be interesting to see what happens when furlough stops. So at the moment, we're in a mini boom because everything's good. Money keeps getting pumped into the economy. Will it happen forever? I doubt it. So one of the questions that came through on my YouTube channel is that, months ago, Arsh, you said that we were going to have a crash. What's happened? Because all I can see is a complete opposite to what you said. Now, there's no crystal ball here, guys. With all due respect, no one knows, is there going to be a crash or is there going to be a boom? The reality is that at some point there has to be a crash. When? No one knows. I commented based on the fact that, taking everything into consideration, what was happening at that point, that a crash has to happen. Now, taking into consideration when the money tap turns off, I think that's when that will happen, and I can imagine that that's going to happen over the next 6 months. So lots of people have also commented and saying that they're feeling good and they're optimistic. Now, the one industry that's taken an absolute beating for sure is the holiday industry or the tourism industry. You know, airplanes have not been able to leave. Lots of companies have been put on red lists. You know, you've not been able to go to certain locations. The one thing that has been also a positive is that as a result of people not being able to eat out, people not being able to go out, people have been saving. So as a result of saving, people have now got more liquidity in order for them to be able to purchase properties, in order to be able to invest. And the one thing that I found was quite interesting over the last 12 months is the fact that people have started to diversify their investment portfolio. So we've seen the rise of cryptocurrency, we've seen the rise of people buying gold, silver bullions. So that's been an interesting observation as well. But we have to take into consideration that we're not out of the woods yet. The reason why I say that is because there's now what we would consider the Indian variant of, and that is having a part to play in certain locations. So although we're saying that we're coming out of COVID, we're now having to proceed with caution because there are other variants that could cause us to go back into certain levels of lockdown. And over the last week, they've seen that certain locations have had massive spikes. And as a result of that, that could cause local lockdown. So again, proceed with caution. So it's an interesting time. What's going to happen? No one can say. What can we do? We can proceed with caution. We can continue to be safe, protect others. But more importantly, the one thing I will say is, if and where possible, get out and support local businesses. So if there is a local restaurant to you, go out, support them. If there's a local pub, go out and support them. You know, instead of shopping at large nationals, shop locally to show your support, to say, you know what guys, the last 12 months have been tough. I'm putting my money, my local money back into the local till. And that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 12 months. I haven't shopped at my supermarkets and stuff like that. I've tried not to shop at supermarkets. I tried to shop local, just as a way of pushing money back into the local economy. So there we have it, guys. It's a shorter version than normal. As always, I wish you all to be safe, well, and happy. Use this time to go and spend time with your loved ones, the people that you've missed, the people, and start becoming social again. Because if we consistently just remain indoors and say, oh, we're going to be too cautious, nothing will ever really move on. So we do need to get back out there. So there we have it, guys. Not the most interesting good topics, but naturally something that we do have to discuss. So as always, if you want to find out more, please feel free to join me on my YouTube channel. It's under the handle of Arsh. You can find me on YouTube. As well as that, if you want to connect with me on social media, you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Clubhouse. And then finally, if you're looking for your next property investment deal, have you downloaded the Property Investor app? It's the UK's first property investment platform, which showcases all kinds of deals all over the country. Whether you're looking for a B&B deal, rent-to-rent deal, lease option deal, just to name a few, all you've got to do, go to propertyinvestораpp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, you go to the App Store, type in Property Investor, and you'll be able to download it within the space of a couple of minutes and see all these great deals that we have. So, guys, as always, get out. Let's get moving. Let's get the economy moving. But more importantly, stay safe, well, and happy. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you and bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.